Hey there and welcome back to NBA 2K18's My League Mode. My name is Pete and today we complete the month of December 2020 in our NBA 2K18 My League expansion series. The Louisville Legionnaires are off to a very good start to the season so far, and with a 15-5 record they sit at the top of the Eastern Conference. However, the team is not entirely free of problems, and one of them is actually superstar Anthony Davis, who has, at least for the most part of the season, underperformed a bit. At the end of the last episode, he was slowly finding his groove. Still, all in all, he's just not taking enough shots to be the team's main scoring option, so I have just slightly bumped up his shooting tendencies, and hopefully that will make him shoot and also score a bit more. Now, we start off the month of December with 2 games against the Utah Jazz, which will also in the span of 3 days complete our season series against them. Utah's starting lineup is still anchored by center Rudy Gobert. Rating-wise, the team actually looks very solid here, and Aaron Gordon as the 6th man off the bench could play a huge role for them. Their 7-13 record doesn't show a lot of promise though, and that might have also been the reason why we completely underestimated them in this game. The Jazz went off to a good start and never looked back. They won the third quarter alone by 16 points and absolutely demolished the Legionnaires on their way to a 22-point victory. Anthony Davis did what he could with 19 points, but garbage time began early in this one. That was also when Mitch Dennis picked up most of his 14 points, but in the end this game was a blowout through and through. 2 days later then we travel to Utah to maybe get our revenge, but once again the Jazz completely outplay us. This time they win the game by a margin of 37 points. The Legionnaires shot horribly from the field, they rebounded poorly, and they also committed a lot of turnovers. The Jazz meanwhile dominated us on both ends of the court, and with that they take the season series in dominant fashion. The scoring list for this game once again doesn't really mean much. Mitch Dennis leads the way with 17 points here, although once again most of those came in garbage time, and his shooting efficiency could have been better as well. So the Legionnaires now on a 3-game losing streak as we head back home for the next game against the New York Knicks. We are still the first seed in the East, but if the team continues to play like this, that could change soon. New York is still more or less the same team we faced in the playoffs last year. The starting unit is headlined by Porzingis. They also have 74 overall sophomore Joe Francis start at the shooting guard, which also leads to a fairly interesting bench unit consisting of Tim Hardaway Jr., Brandon McCoy, Jordan Bell, and former Legionnaire Rashad Vaughn. Surprisingly enough, however, it was that 74 overall Joe Francis who absolutely killed us in this game. Francis was completely unguardable from mid-range. He finished the game with 25 points, and even though I don't really have any complaints about the way the Legionnaires played tonight, in the end, Francis and the rest of the Knicks were just a tiny bit better. For a change, we now do have a few interesting stat lines to show. The best one without a doubt belongs to Anthony Davis, who finished with 36 points and 17 rebounds and also managed to stay out of foul trouble. AD absolutely feasted on Porzingis, but still it wasn't enough. Richardson and Hood both added 15 points, albeit with 9 combined turnovers, while Andre Flanders was good enough for 12 points and Bamba came just 1 point shy of a double-double. So 4 losses in a row now and the Legionnaires have dropped down to the 2nd seed in the East, and the Milwaukee Bucks are waiting as their next opponent. And the Bucks have a pretty stacked starting 5 surrounding Antetokounmpo. The matchup of Thon Maker versus Mohamed Bamba will also be interesting to watch, as Maker has for some reason developed into one of the best shooting big men in the league. Despite all that, however, the Legionnaires were able to bounce back and get themselves a victory in this one. The win here tonight belongs more or less exclusively to Anthony Davis and Bryce Johnson, who both played phenomenal tonight. The Bucks never went away, it was a close back and forth, but our 2 power forwards made sure the Legionnaires prevailed. AD finishes strong with 28 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals and 3 blocks, while Johnson puts up 23 points and 6 rebounds, and combined they went to the free throw line 18 times, which definitely helped to secure the victory. And with that, the Legionnaires reclaim the top spot in the East as the Celtics await, a team with a fantastic backcourt here with Irving, Smart and Hayward. Jason Tatum also comes off the bench as the 6th man to make them even stronger. Down low, however, the Celtics are not looking that strong, and that was also exactly the story of tonight's game. Boston's backcourt played tremendously. Kyrie Irving dropped 40 points on us, but we dominated the inside game on our way towards a 14-point victory. Anthony Davis once again the top scorer tonight with a fantastic stat line, 28 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals and 4 blocks. AD truly seems to have turned it around lately. Mo Bamba also not too bad with a 16-point, 11-rebound double-double, also adding 3 blocks, while Hood, Richardson, Johnson, Ulis and Flanders all managed to score in double digits as well. So it looks like the Legionnaires are back on track, and up next we already have our 3rd regular season matchup against the Washington Wizards. We have won both games against them so far. The Wizards are also dead last in the Eastern Conference. Still, tonight they came out to play and the game actually went into overtime. With 18 seconds left to play, John Wall ties the game up right here, and out of the timeout we have the final possession of the game and the chance to win it. Ulis sets things up and we quickly call for Anthony Davis in the post, who had been fantastic so far and with a good mismatch against Markieff Morris. And AD makes the most out of his final possession. The left-handed turnaround hook shot is good, and with 3 seconds left on the clock, the Legionnaires have a 2-point lead. We are not in the clear yet, as Washington gets one more timeout and one more chance for a quick shot. However, John Wall's 3-point attempt here is well contested by Ulis. The shot misses, Davis grabs the rebound and secures the victory. And with those two actions, Davis also reinforces his status as the player of the game tonight. He was once again unstoppable, putting up 34 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals and 3 blocks. And even though the Wizards played tremendously, they didn't really have an answer for him. Andre Flanders also had a good game with 19 points and 7 rebounds, and Tyler Ulis wasn't too bad either with 16 points and 8 assists. So we are already halfway through December and Portland is waiting up next. We already faced the Blazers, who are the 2nd seed in the West by the way, at the beginning of the season, and we won that game by 12. This time the affair was a lot closer, but the end result was the same. Now, we mostly won this game at the free throw line. Both teams combined for 55 attempts in this game. The Legionnaires, however, managed to make just a few more, and in the end, apparently that was enough. No surprises at the top of the scoreboard. Anthony Davis once again shines with 27 points, 15 rebounds and 5 blocks, and Rodney Hood also had a good game and was in large parts responsible for our many trips to the free throw line, although he could have made 1 or 2 more. In the end, shooting 70% from the line was enough. The win here tonight, however, came with a huge price tag. We are looking at Deyonta Davis here, backup center and defensive anchor for our bench unit, who suffered a stress fracture to his lower left leg in this game, and who will now be out for 4 to 6 months. So he might very well miss the remainder of the regular season, and it also remains to be seen how well he will be able to bounce back from that injury. Davis definitely profits not only from his length but also from his athleticism, and the injury here could have a severe long-term impact on that. This is definitely also a huge blow to the Legionnaires' rotation. Despite limited minutes, Davis was a very important piece of the bench. His defensive presence down low will now definitely be missed, and hopefully Festus Ezeli will be able to step in and fill the hole that Davis left. And with Davis out, we are now facing the Houston Rockets for the first time this season. Chris Paul and James Harden are still leading this team. Down low they look a bit weaker, but that is mostly because Clint Capella is also injured at the moment, which might very well play in our favor. Going into this game, I expected to have lots of room down low, and while that was also true for the most part, I did not expect the Rockets to shoot threes like there was no tomorrow. Especially in the second half, they absolutely torched us from deep, and a few key three-pointers late in the game secured them a 6-point victory here. Nonetheless, especially our 2 starting big men were able to shine in this game. AD finishes with 23 points and 9 rebounds, while Bamba puts up an impressive double-double with 14 points and 14 boards. Mitch Dennis and Andre Flanders were our best scorers from the wing tonight, however their percentages leave a lot to be desired. The same is true by the way for Josh Richardson, who finished the game with 9 points and 6 rebounds. So, the Legionnaires suffered their 9th loss of the regular season, and before we head into the next game against the Heat, we have our first trade. Don't worry though, we are not making any moves. Instead, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Las Vegas Aces are. Now, the Timberwolves are trading point guards Tyus Jones and Briante Weber to the Aces in exchange for point guard Jeremy Lin and small forward Kent Bazemore. This trade makes sense for both sides. The Timberwolves get rid of Jones' $9 million salary next season. They also slim down a slightly clogged up point guard rotation here. And in Bazemore, they also acquire a wing player on a cheap 1-year contract, which should help them out as they currently only have 4 players at the shooting guard and small forward combined. The Aces meanwhile simply deepen their point guard rotation, while also making a sensible move, giving up 1 of 5 small forwards on the team. So there is no reason to pull a veto on this trade, as we see the first move of the season being made. And now it's time for our game against the Heat. Last time we faced them, we lost in heartbreaking fashion by only 2 points. Tonight, however, we absolutely made sure to stay in control of this one. For a change, most of our scoring came from the wing players tonight. The Heat did look good down low with Marvin Bagley and Hassan Whiteside. Still, it wasn't enough for a win as the Legionnaires cruise on to a 15-point victory. Andre Flanders, our leading scorer in this one with 23 points, followed by Rodney Hood who had 16, while both Bamba and Davis put up double-doubles. We move on to a new week and we start things off with the Indiana Pacers, who have Kevin Durant back on the roster. If you remember, he was out with an injury the last time we played. However, the team is once again not fully healthy, because this time center Miles Turner will sit out. And what can I say, Indiana just doesn't seem to click when they're missing players. Once again, just like last time, the game was an absolute blowout. Indiana just didn't stand a chance even with Durant fully healthy, as the Legionnaires comfortably beat them by 30 points. Our two top scorers in this game, no surprises, Josh Richardson and Anthony Davis share the load with 22 points each. Davis also adds 14 rebounds, while Hood, Bamba, Flanders and Johnson all managed to score in double digits as well. Our next game is now against the Detroit Pistons, who actually beat us in our first matchup, and I believe Andre Drummond actually missed that game with an injury. Today he's back in action, but Tobias Harris will sit out. However, even with Harris, I don't think the Pistons could have done anything about Anthony Davis in this game. Especially in the fourth quarter, Davis put up a monster effort. He blocked shots left and right and scored at will, and single-handedly pushed us past Detroit for a 7-point victory. No surprises to see Davis with the stat line of the night here: 33 points, 12 rebounds and 6 blocks. Like I said, most of those coming in the fourth quarter, and that was enough to secure the victory for the Legionnaires tonight. Tyler Hughes also with a strong performance, 21 points and 70% shooting and also 5 assists. Flanders added 18 points, including 3 makes from deep. Johnson played a nice game off the bench with 15 points, 8 boards and 2 blocks. And Josh Richardson also got himself into double digits again with 12 points. One player who's missing from the list is Mohamed Bamba, and there is an unfortunate reason for that. Bamba once again suffered an injury in tonight's game. With a pulled lower back muscle, he will now miss 2 to 4 weeks. And with that, both our starting and our backup center are out with injuries, and our big man rotation looks pretty depleted. Now, thankfully, Bamba will only miss a moderate amount of time, so I don't think we have to go crazy in our search for a replacement. Instead, we will simply sign someone from the free agency pool, and the best available option here was AJ Hammons. He is the best rim protector that is currently still available on the market. He is a true 7-footer, a good defensive rebounder, also able to hit the occasional shot from outside. All in all, I think he is a solid emergency option. Now, since our roster is currently full, we can only offer a 2-way contract, but that is good enough for now. After all, Bamba will hopefully return soon. And so, AJ Hammons, welcome to the Louisville Legionnaires. Our new starting lineup now looks like this. Bryce Johnson slides in at power forward and Davis moves down to center, while Hammons and Ezeli will be the big man off the bench. And yes, that also removes a very important scoring option off the bench, so Andre Flanders will definitely pick up additional scoring duties off the bench for the next few games. With that new lineup, we now host the Minnesota Timberwolves for the first time this season, a team with a pretty strong core. The matchup of Karl Anthony Towns versus Anthony Davis will be interesting to watch, and all in all, I expect this to be a hard-fought game. In the end though, it was once again Anthony Davis who put the team on his back. Whenever he was on the court, he was a menace for the opposing defense. Mitch Dennis and Andre Flanders added some valuable scoring off the bench, and that was enough to defeat a strong Timberwolves squad by 10 points. AD undoubtedly our man of the match with 30 points, 13 rebounds, 4 steals and 2 blocks, but like I said, the contributions of Dennis and Flanders should not go unmentioned here. Dennis with 22 points, 6 of 7 from deep, and Flanders with 17, both of them played a big part in the victory tonight. From the Timberwolves we move on to the Aces, and with that we now play against both teams who just participated in the trade we just looked at. Now, I showed it to you at the beginning of the previous episode. The Aces are still struggling a bit. They did have a nice win streak in the middle of November though. That has pushed them up to a 15-20 record, with which they are now sitting in the 11th seed in the Western Conference. Still, this is a game that we should expect to win, and behind another strong night from Anthony Davis, we did exactly that. AD was instrumental in securing a big lead on the boards. That led to a lot of fast breaks and easy scoring opportunities, which ultimately propelled the Legionnaires to another double-digit victory. And once again, Davis is our man of the match. His stat line for the night: 26 points on 10 of 16 shooting, 17 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals and 4 blocks. Josh Richardson also deserves a mention with 15 points and 5 rebounds, and so does Andre Flanders with 13 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists and 2 steals. And that brings us now to the final 2 games of December. Our matchup against the Orlando Magic is the first one of the season, and once again I am fairly optimistic about our chances in this one. The Magic have lost 9 of their last 10 games, they are dead last in the Eastern Conference, and due to injury they are also missing former Legionnaire Juan Hernangomez as well as small forward Jonathan Isaac. And I think even with our 2 best centers out, that sounds like a manageable task. And well, no surprises in this one. We got ourselves the win, and fairly easily at that. Richardson and Davis worked together very nicely in this game. Flanders was able to shoulder the scoring load off the bench. All in all, everyone did exactly what I expected them to, and that led the Legionnaires to a 25-point victory. And once again, Anthony Davis puts up a fantastic stat line: 36 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals and 3 blocks. His shooting numbers also tremendous. I think it's safe to say the early struggles we experienced with Davis are over. Andre Flanders added 22 points and 6 rebounds off the bench, although the shooting performance was not the best, while Josh Richardson showed off some playmaking abilities in this one, finishing the game with 16 points and 10 assists, and most of those went to Anthony Davis. So here we are, last game of the year, and we're facing the Cleveland Cavaliers again. Now, we actually managed to beat the Cavaliers on opening night, and to be honest, this season isn't going as well as I had expected. The Cavs are only 5th in the East at the moment, all that despite a roster that easily won a championship last season. Well, tonight we once again came very close to beating them. The game actually went to overtime, in which Cleveland sadly completely destroyed us. They grabbed pretty much every available offensive rebound, finishing the game with 27 offensive boards. They also couldn't miss from deep in overtime. Isaiah Thomas and Luka Doncic combined for 12 3-pointers and 69 points on the night. And well, we didn't really have an answer for that, and so we lose the final game of the episode by 12 points in overtime. Still, we have some positives, for example the performance of Bryce Johnson, who did a fantastic job against Kevin Love on offense and finished the game with a team-high 23 points. Anthony Davis was once again able to double-double with 22 points and 10 rebounds, while our wing rotation of Richardson, Hood, Dennis and Flanders was able to score in double digits in their entirety, although especially the shooting numbers of Richardson and Flanders are not looking that impressive. Flanders, however, also added 8 assists on the night. In the end though, it just wasn't enough. And so with a 25-10 record, we wrap up the year 2020. The Legionnaires are still in control of the Eastern Conference, and even though we have suffered a few unfortunate injuries, the team as a whole is definitely on the right track. Now, I want to wrap this episode up with a small question. As you might know, I am currently looking at options to improve our point guard situation. While I really like Tyler Ulis as a playmaker who can also score, his lack of size and defensive abilities make him a liability in a lot of games. Now, for the moment we are winning most of our games, so Ulis is not much of a problem. In the playoffs, however, that could change significantly. And while Rodney Hood is regularly getting some minutes at the point guard at the moment, I also don't think he will be able to play the position for 30 minutes a night. So in short, what I'm looking for is a point guard who can continue to be a reliable playmaker, but who also brings a bit more size and defense to the table. Now, we unfortunately do not have the pieces to trade for any of the star players at the point guard, but to be honest, I don't think we need to. I really think we have more than enough scoring options on the team, so ideally we simply find a player who can run the offense, play some defense and hit open shots. Also, if we look down the list of good defenders at the point guard position, we can see that most of the players near the top are either well within their 30s, on incredibly expensive contracts, or young superstars in the making that we have no hopes of acquiring without giving up comparable talent in return. However, once we move past the creme de la creme, a few more realistic targets start to appear. The first one, for example, would be Raptors backup point guard Corey Joseph. Joseph is 6'3", a solid defender and playmaker, definitely nothing special, still a solid scorer as well, maybe a bit of a downgrade playmaking-wise compared to Ulis, but a slight upgrade on defense. Slightly more specialized would be Utah Jazz point guard Ricky Rubio. Rubio is an excellent playmaker, no doubt even better than Ulis. He is also a very good on-ball defender, the only thing that's a bit of a problem with him is scoring, and there are also some injury concerns with him. His contract is pretty sizable with $50 million a year, but at least in terms of playmaking and defense, he is exactly what we're looking for. We also have a third potential option also coming from the Jazz, and that would be Rubio's backup Dante Exum. Exum is not as great of a playmaker as Rubio is. On defense, he is also slightly worse, but really not much. However, he makes up for that with a long 6'6" frame, and he also doesn't have Rubio's injury problems. Just like Joseph, Exum is in the final year of his contract, so there are some risks attached to all of the players here, but I think they're all solid options. With Rodney Hood and Chris Dunn also picking up playmaking opportunities, none of the players here would play more than 25 to 28 minutes a night, and for that I think they all fit quite nicely. So my question at this point is, who would you pick? Of course, there are no guarantees we'll be actually able to land one of the guys, but I think they are realistic targets, and I think we should be able to put a compelling package together. So let me know in the comments who your first choice would be. Of course, if you have other ideas, then feel free to let me know as well. A trade at the point guard could very well happen in the next episode, so I would be very happy to hear your takes on the moves we could make at this point. And that is also how we wrap today's episode up. As always, if you liked the video, then please leave a thumbs up. And if you want to support the channel, then you can either subscribe if you haven't already, or you can support the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.